Hi everybody, welcome to Season 5's Episode 4, it's a mouthful, of The Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and with Darragh MacAnthony, the chairman and owner of Peterborough United. And we've switched countries since we last spoke. So you've gone to the nice warm weather, I've come to the freezing cold England.
Yeah. I've just come back from Auburn, where I moved my son into college. So we were there for like 3 days, watched the game there at like 6:30 in the morning. So these like mad times, because Auburn's an hour behind Orlando. And then fucking flew back in yesterday, and you flew to the UK on Friday. So it's I'm heading off traveling again tomorrow. So it's kind of like ping, all over the place. But yeah, all good.
It was going to be like that for the next few weeks, probably through the end of October. But we'll continue to make these happen as much as we can.
Yeah, because I'm heading to the UAE for like 3 days of business next week, so we'll probably have to record when I'm there. So yeah, it'll be the same thing. It'll be like nighttime for me or whatever else. So it's fine. Yeah,
Well, since we recorded last, you won 4-1. You beat Shrewsbury 4-1 away on Saturday. So talk me through that.
Yeah, it was actually, the manager rang me on Friday and he was like, I think we've lost sparks. And I'm sitting outside of Walmart. My missus is inside buying stuff for my son's apartment in Auburn. I don't do shopping centres in big batches. So
I can't picture you walking out of Walmart.
Yeah, and when he said that, I was like, what? You're kidding me. And he's like, no, he's been sick all night and da-da-da-da-da. He didn't travel down with a team. I'm thinking, how many left backs have you got to, you're going to go through that process. So, and then obviously we got the news, the Man City boy, had a really bad one. He's like 4.5 months or whatever else. So it was just like, So anyway, woke up Saturday morning, 6 a.m., watched the game at 6:30, which was like 12:30 UK time. All these times like playing havoc, you know what I mean, with like the football psyche on a weekend. We haven't had a 3 o'clock game yet. And to be fair, we started really well. I mean, it was the best we've definitely played. And I guess when Shrewsbury scored, I'm thinking it was almost an identical goal from the goals we've given away the previous 2 games. Start really well, first shot of the game from the opposition, and it flings off someone's foot into the corner. And you're just thinking to yourself, like, I don't know about the football juju, what's going on? They took bad luck or whatever else, and I'm thinking, oh Christ, because that's just not fair. Like, you've got a lot of new players trying to, get things together and play to our style. And you have to believe in the way you play, you have to win games eventually, because you have to give belief to the players. And if after game 3, again, you're like getting a kick in the balls where the opposition's having their first shot and it like pings in from 30 yards into the corner off, deflecting off somebody. But to be fair to the players, Kwame Poku, who was fully fit, really relieved he was back, basically scored within like 60 seconds. And truth be known, fair play to Shrewsbury, they dug in and whatever else, and we took the lead in the second half early on. I think Kwame again, but we had so many chances. I mean, we had no word of a lie. Like, if you look back, and that's always great news, by the way, because when you're creating that many chances, as I said last season, you'll score a lot of goals. And we've missed a couple of one-on-ones. We missed absolute sitter on the line from 1 yard. It was more difficult to miss, but it happens. Ricocheted off our players the wrong side of the foot.
Didn't see it coming.
Yeah, all those things, and then to be fair, we're digging in at 2-1. They're at set piece, very good on set pieces. We now have 2 centre halves who can win everything in the air in Oscar and Manny, which is such a relief on set pieces. And then we have obviously the pace of the greyhound, Ricky, who comes on. I don't know if you've seen the footage, but like, he's basically like, he's gone deep from the edge of our box and gone past 3 of their players, and they all have a 50-yard head start on him. It was almost funny. He almost booked himself up with his legs and he's just gone, So Randall then scores 2 late goals. Kwame should have had a hat trick. It was a pleasure to see. You could see that, the game statistic, 65% possession, 18 shots on goal, 10 on target, an XG of 3. It should have been an XG of 5. We were ourselves. We looked good at the back. One of the key changes was Sparks came off. I'm going to give him a lot of credit for actually coming down. A lot of players wouldn't have done what he did. And he came down and he tried to start because he knew how important it was to have a left back. And to be fair, Sam Curtis went over there. And then JD, our own academy graduate, who, has been up and down pre-season, but he's young. Fair play to him. He was absolutely brilliant. And suddenly we just looked, this is it now. You know what I mean? Like, Curtis is suddenly bombing down the left. And then you got JD, who's just very strong on the right, technically very good. Some of the balls he played in. So it was a very comprehensive win. I'm listening to like the commentary on BBC, and they're like, oh, Peterborough are going to have to sign another left back. I said to my missus when she woke up or whatever time after the game, I'm like, like people in football, like when you're in sports and you're commentating, whatever else, like you can't just go out and sign new players every time. You lose. We've got like 3 left backs in but you just can't go and do another. It's not Football Manager where it's like, we've got 3 right backs. So one of them's injured again. Let's go sign a 4th one. And if he goes down with something, let's just go sign a 5th one. You can't stack them up. You know what I mean? Like you're collecting stamps. So I did chuckle at that. But anyway, Sparks is fine. It was just sickness. It wasn't like a muscle injury, and so I was really happy for the boys. The crowd looked great. We had 600-700 fans. It was great for the new boys to experience that win. I joked with the gaffer afterwards and said, "Geez," I said, it was our first win since April. Forgetting the fact we haven't played football for 3 months. So it was nice, particularly traveling and moving my son into college, which is like traumatic at best. So, when you're leaving your firstborn, college, so to have that win on the Saturday made me feel $1 million. And it just gives the fans a little. There were glimpses in game 1. There were glimpses against Oxford, what we have, what we've recruited, and there's going to be a lot more glimpses. Like I said, it's going to take time to, refine everything. Hector's back out there training every day, strong as an ox. We've got Nevitt's back this weekend. So, we're getting players back. Hopefully, touch wood, that's the end of that. The manager doesn't want to sign another midfielder, even though the Man City boy's down. We had a recruitment meeting this morning about cap space because of the Szmodics sell-on, which we made about, I think because we had to pay Bristol City, obviously, a sell-on on our bit. I think we made about 800 grand over 3 years. So I think about 360 of it was in this year's cap. So that allowed us to, I said this morning, we'll allocate some of that for an extra centre half, and then allocate some of that has to be allocated for potential new contracts plus whatever else I've held back, because we have to do a couple of players, Kwame, Hector, which there's no point in even trying to do it until the window closes. Not that we want to sell them, but their heads will be all over the place, and you just want to settle down, get a win. And please, no headlines that Kwame and Hector's heads all over the place to the press listing. They're not. But I'm just looking at it going,
natural sequence.
The sequence is just let everything die down. You're winning games. You're playing football. It's September the 1st. The window's gone. And now we talk business and talk about your futures and whatever else. So we'll work really hard to try and do that. And then obviously I've got a couple of the younger players that, deserve some bumps, and longer term contracts to recognize, we had 2 players on the pitch on a combined 700 quid a week on Saturday from our 21s, so they'll be getting pay bumps and, plus, and by the way, that's wages. They also earn, for the younger players who are on the lower wages, they get like a grand appearance. So there is that, they have the upside to it. So, that's how we incentivize the youngsters to break in and earn money for playing time and doing whatever. So Toney was fantastic again on Saturday. James was fantastic, 2 of our, youngest players out there. Yeah, it was lovely to watch. Randall was back to his best. Archie was back to his best. Kwame was a monster. He is, I know people laugh. I say he's the best winger in the league. I'm sorry, but he's the best winger in the league. And I would have that argument with anyone who wants to throw any winger at me. For the player he is, it's ridiculous that he's with us, and we're very happy he's with us. So he just needs to stay fit, and he could dominate this league. It could be his playground, as much as he wants. I said to him in the summer, he scored 20 goals, 20 assists. You have that much ability. So really good day at the office. Touch wood, no injuries. Partnerships emerging, new players breaking through. Pace as well being our, big strength. Special mention to Abraham on the left. That was his first start. He was very, very, very good. Couldn't have been happier with that. And roll on now, next week. And, away game at Exeter. Never easy going there, long place to travel. I don't have no idea what kickoff time it is, but I'll find out on Friday, I guess. I'll look at it then.
Such is the world these days.
Such is the world. But Exeter are no mugs, as we've seen. We beat Rotherham last week. And but it'll be a really good game. And they've got really good young players. So I'm really looking forward to watching them and watching us and, and whatever else. And look, that's it now. You're off and running. You're scoring goals. You're doing all the things Peterborough are used to doing. And we just have to keep instilling that belief into the new players, into the current players, that this is the system, this is how we play, this is the style. We won't turn away from that, regardless of a couple of shitty results or whatever else. There's a whole process here, and we'll stick to those beliefs. And I'm sure the fans who've been pretty cool the last couple of weeks were probably going, ha to all the fans who were probably on top of us, but. That's the beauty about football fans and the tribalism that goes on inside of football about, on one side is not happy, one side is happy. the moaners, the
That's funny
negatives,
how
the
it's
negative.
Joel scoring too, and that's
Negative people. Exactly. I mean, Joe Randall. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I don't know what's the matter with some of the people who are like anti-Joel. It might be based on the first 2 years, but you've got to understand. I get all the data from like the leagues, and he played 10 for the first time in his career last year. He was the second best 10 in League One on everything. On linking lines, on runs, progressive runs, on assists, on passes, on shots on goal, on expected goals, on attacking entries, on defensive work, on running 10, 11K a game. That's why we had bids in the millions for him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he was a winger. And now he's one of the best number 10s in the league. So that's not an exaggeration. I have all the data that will argue that and show you that. And other teams look at that. And we've had League One Championship clubs trying to buy him. That's what he can do. And Joel's just a confidence player. And on Saturday, it was his playground with Kwame. And, he could score as many as he wants. So, what was probably nice for him was those really little easy chances that he dinked in. He probably missed them last year and score a couple of harder chances. So if he adds that to his repertoire, 24, he's unstoppable. So, yeah, I'm happy for him. And it gives him the belief and gives his teammates the belief. And you have to understand as well, you got Archie's playing with a new midfield partner because Hector's not there. And he's playing with a 20-year-old lad who's never played in midfield, who looks at home, and complementing each other. But that takes time. Mm-hmm. Oscar and Manny have never played together. All right. Again, the partnership takes time. The two fullbacks, they've never played together. There's a lot of that. On the left side, you've got a whole new left side with Abraham and obviously Sam Kerr to serve it with Sparks. So it's just going to take a minute. That's all. Malik Muddisa looked very good. He missed a couple of sitters, but he looked very dangerous. Ricky responded to being dropped by being Ricky, and that's what you can never doubt about him. The criticism and everything else came on like no skin off his nose and went at it, you know what I mean, and whatever else. And we've had serious bids for him, and as much as sometimes our fans want to pick at him and whatever else, at 21 he's an unbelievable prospect. So we've had a couple of substantial bids for him, and he's the only player over the summer. This is the first time in our history that I've had bids from 3 different European countries for him, and I would imagine a lot of that's based on data and pressing. And all the stuff and whatever else. You know what I mean? We had a bid from a second division club in Spain. We had a bid from a Premier League club in, I think it was Denmark early in the season. And then we had a bid from a Portuguese club. I was in the office when Baz took the calls. And it's really funny. The Portuguese club was like, they were giving the pitch we give to people when we buy players. They were saying, we are very famous for selling players on for a profit. So, we will give you, I think it was $1.5 million at the time, the bid. And we'll give you add-ons, we'll give you a sell-on, and we sell. And I said, I bought it. I said, what have you sold on? They were like, they were in a massive club in Portugal, Premier League. And the guy's like, well, we sold this player for $3 million last year. And we sold this player for 2.5. And I said, look, with all due respect, we've just done 3 of those in the last 6 months for a lot more than that. So I'm not sure, The guy was like, oh. And I'm like, so you probably need to do your research on who we are. But yeah, no, thank you. Good luck. So that was fascinating, doing that, but so all good. I'm babbling a bit about recruitment and stuff, and just had a really good recruitment meeting here on Zoom this morning, just to talk about the next 2 weeks. To be fair, I was saying to the manager, look, I think we need 3 pieces, and he was like, no, just want 2. I was like, oh, okay. So, I said, right now we can do a centre half. We have the room for that, and then those contracts. And then if some of the ones leave that are meant to leave, we can do the other piece he wants. So yeah, he just wants 2 pieces. And that's kind of like, he's really like strong. I'm like, listen, no problem. I guess he's got a lot of players in the training ground. Yeah. I think our under 21s game tomorrow is probably the strongest under 21 team we've played in like 10 years. So, there's a lot of the first team squad will now start getting those games for the minutes and stuff. So there's a good place to be. So good weekend and really happy. Good recruitment meeting today. Still getting bids for players, not selling any players. You know what I mean? So again, I said to the manager, "You've seen the bids." He's like, "I'm like, you're okay," and he's like, "Yeah, no. As long as you tell me that, nothing changes." It'll be his decision. As I've said, towards the end of this window, it was a promise I made, and I'll stick to that. So yeah, it's positive stuff.
And I'm sure even for Darragh, every player has his price when he thinks about what can be reinvested back in the squad. So
absolutely. Like he has the power to say to me, we had a bid for, it was 2.7 plus 2 and add-ons the other day. And I said to Barry, don't tell me, tell the manager. he'll come to me and say, what do you think of it? It was like, there's no way I'm taking that for the player that was whatever else. And if Darren said to me, look, if you get to that, take that. How much of that have I got? Of course, we will spend. It's what we do. So we will open up the purse strings and acquire talent that might cost us money, as opposed to we get a centre half on loan or we will do more spending. We'll have room to do it, and be able to do that with a cap. So, but yeah, that's his decision. That's for this window. As I said to you, next summer, different story, January, but this window, that's his thing now. Like I promised him at the start of the summer. So I think they all just want to settle down now and get the window closed, get into the new season. He definitely wants to move players on. We have the 3 that are on the list, so we're hoping obviously there'll be more bids for them in the coming weeks. And that's really not about we need them to go or whatever else. It's just he doesn't have space, and they're not going to even be in a squad. He's kind of like, he said to me, he's got like 40 players in the training ground. It's with the 21s, with our first team, our squad, it's a lot of players when they're all fit. You as a coaching team trying to handle sessions and who goes where and it's a lot. So yeah, so it is what it is, but all good.
And the players on the list, as you start getting closer to deadline day, then they've got this realization that I can either sit in the reserves or I need to make some decisions to get some first team football.
Yeah, 100%. Like Cabby, in fairness, he didn't want to go to non-league. He feels he's done his time there, and he turned down 2 terrific clubs in non-league. And we spoke about this, and we were like, look, nobody in League 2 has come in with an offer. Now, that might change. We got an offer from Scotland yesterday, but again, it wasn't a good enough offer. And my advice to him and his agent were, you can dig your heels in and stay, or you can be sensible about this. If you go to a really good, and the club in non-league, I think they've won some games 4-0 and stuff, they'll win the league, in my opinion. I said, if you go there, you'll score 30 goals, you'll win the Golden Boot. That club will probably want to sign you. They'll finally be a league club. They'll probably pay you more, and your career is up and running. So if you sit here, you're going to be in the 21s, and Kamara, our young striker, is probably going to play more. The 21s play like us with 1 striker. So you might not even get in the 21s, and that's not a threat. That's just football, because Kamara is like 18, 19, and we see a lot of upside in him in the future. Right. Yeah. We the Cabby thing just hasn't come off, and that's fine in football. It doesn't always work. And now we're trying to do what's best for us and him. And we've brought 2 to the table that will pay a fee for him. We'll sign him, and we'll pay his wages in full. He won't lose a pound note. So, him and his agent wanted us to send him for a third of that to League 2, and that's not going to work for us. We're the ones who are actually going to lose money on the overall deal, because we pay transfer fee bigger than the one we're receiving. So what's best for you as a player in a club? Get what you're paid or a bit more, get your career back on track, go score goals, win a Golden Boot, and then you write your own ticket. If your agent's telling you to hold out and basically like thinking that we're going to basically fall over and let you go, it's not going to happen. David, there are bids, and there would be bids for David by the end of the window. He was a very, very good winger in League 1 last year. I can see clubs who need wingers who are struggling. He created a lot of goals for Clark Harris last year. And also then Romany, obviously, again, he's got a decision to make. Yeah. Because although clubs in League 2, if they come in for him, they might not be able to do his wages. If they offer him a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal, you have to add that up and go, well, maybe I'm going to have to go out and take less and go get my career going, but I've got a longer term contract. Yeah. So that's what I'd said about Bradford last week. Like, be sensible, try and do a deal with the boy and his agent. I'll give you an example. If I'm taking a player from the champ and the player's on $3,000 a week and we have a budget of 2, I'll say to the player, look, you got a year left on 3. When your year's up, you ain't going to get 2 because nobody will know much about you. You haven't played much, even in an open market. Come to us, we'll give you 2, we'll give you 500 to start, we'll give you 500 to win, we'll bump it up that you're not losing. And not only that, we'll give you a 2nd year or a 3rd year, so that you have security knowing that, you know what, you're not actually going to lose money this year. So sometimes players need to have that realization and see that for what it is. But Romany's a really, really honest guy. And I don't foresee if anyone comes in and there's something to be done, I think he's the type that would want to move on with his career. He's never come across in that way, as a player that was like dig his heels in, or I'm not going there, I'm not going there. I think he just wants to play. And I think that's a real compliment to his character as a person. So I'm not expecting issues with him. Nor David, you know what I mean? Cabby's really the one who, him and his agent, kind of need a realization moment that, hey, there's some really good clubs here at the top of non-league that want to sign us. So let's make hay while the sun shines and pick one. So they're kind of the three. And then we've got Will Blackmore that we'd like to get out on loan, who's had a really bad period with injuries. Because we signed a really, really talented young goalkeeper who came from Portsmouth, I believe. Dan, our academy director, signed him on a long-term deal. He's 18, 19. He's 6'3", got a lot of upside, perfect for a goalie, good with his feet. And we're going to try now. Him and Nick will swap playing 21 games to get the time. So Will Blackmore won't get the minutes here. So I'm amazed we haven't had any inquiries, because he has played 3 times for the club and he's got a couple of clean sheets. He's brilliant with his feet. Whilst he's had a bad injury thing, we're asking for peanuts for him to go out and play. And any team in the conference should be like falling over themselves to sign him, because he's or even in Scotland, he's a competent goalkeeper. Just we have too many, in our building. So there's just those little bits and pieces to do, and then we're okay, So enough about Peterborough. Let's talk about the mighty Bradford and your homecoming game. I presume it was a cracker that you flew over to see.
Well, it always is. Whenever I'm in town, you can be sure.
You're the kiss of death.
Yeah, in fact, Ryan was texting me, telling me to go home on Friday and don't come back to the game on Saturday.
Oh no!
It was just so we played Salford. It was 0-0. It was
shit.
Yeah, that's the nice way of
good crowd. It. Good crowd.
Yeah, 16 and a half. There's about 10 there from Salford. So
10,000?
No, yeah. So one of those games where it was a typical advert for League Two.
Who deserved to win?
Well, we deserved to win because we had a goal disallowed that should have been a goal. But
I saw that.
But balance of play, it was probably a fair result.
Right.
So we had a goal that crossed the line. The referee had the line of sight. The linesman was 10 yards behind play.
Of course,
not unusual. But it was clearly, it wasn't kind of a marginal thing. But it was adjudged to have not crossed the line. So we all felt a bit hard done to on that. But let's hope it evens itself out over the course of the season and we get one of those.
I saw your tweet about goal line technology. So first, to address that, I think it's 200. It was 220 grand a year for each club about 4 years ago. A few years ago, that's what the course was. I can only imagine now a technology where there's a chip inside the football and you don't need the 20 cameras they used to have. Right. That has gone considerably cheaper. Because, with all due respect, Elon Musk is putting rockets on the moon for like 98% less money than NASA were. So where there's technology and there's a will, there's a way. You can, and not only that, he's landing those rockets actually remote controlled back on the thing not even in the ocean.
Incredible.
So yeah. So don't tell me that you can't really cheaply come up with tech for League One and League Two, and the EFL or whoever uses slush fund to help us all put that technology in. The year's 2024, and we're still arguing about a ball that's 3 yards over the line because the linesman couldn't keep up. And that's another story, but that's, not my issue. Yeah. So I find that absolutely astonishing that still goes on in our leagues. We're the Championship's the 5th biggest league in the world. League One's got to be still in the top 10 or 12 leagues in the world in League Two. And a club the size of Bradford. So, honest mistake from the ref, the linesman, but they're not getting any help if we don't have any technology to allow it.
No, that was my view. Is I understand for VAR and you need people. That's just not just a technology question. So when you start having people involved, it infinitely raises the cost.
This is a chip and a ball, Phil.
Right, exactly. This is just pure technology. And so I don't get why there's not a central pot.
So I'll give you an example. We had one the opposite way on Saturday. Shrewsbury thought they'd scored. And by all intents and purposes, looking at it first thought, you think, oh, that's over the line. But when you then look back in the replay, and it was quite clever, they showed the replay, it wasn't. Archie got it and kicked it off the line. Now, what if the referee had given it?
Yeah.
What if he given it? Whereas he didn't give it in your game, but what if he gave it because he's going on the appeals of all the Shrewsbury players who rightly so thought they'd scored? Yeah. So the linesman can't see it because there was I think there was 9 players in that area kicking the ball. heading it down, kicking it off the line. God bless how the linesman can see how that gets over the line. And you've seen in the Premier League, even though the ball looks like it's over the line, if a fraction of a millimetre is touching the line, it's not a goal, correct? Yeah. All the ball has to be over the line. So again, what are we talking about here? Why haven't we done this? And again, for me, it's a failure of our game that our leagues don't have it. So I'll shut up now and let you talk. Sorry.
Yeah, so that was disappointing, but we probably didn't help ourselves. I think that, when you look at 4 points first 2 games, those 2 games being Salford and MK Dons, happy with the happy with getting that return. I think that we were a much stronger team away from home than we were at home last season. And so I think that there's a little bit of fear still at playing at home. And there's a fear of not losing versus going out to win. And that's something that we need to get over. And it's not something that's happened like that. The pitch was great. So, long may that continue. But the pitch looked in great nick.
No,
so I think that, Richie Smallwood was saying, how, it was him last year, he labelled our pitch the worst in the EFL. Right. So, he said that, he's very happy with where we are at the moment. At least it lets the boys play the way they want to play. I think the proof will be in the, December to January, chucking it down pudding to see what happens with it then. But once it's been relayed, it usually lasts 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, of course. And you've got 2 weeks left in the window. What's Bradford needing? To some extent, it's going to depend on who goes out. There's some, I think, players that are looking to move, and there's some players that we're probably looking to move on. And, who knows what will come of any of those. It depends if there's any demand, and it depends if, you get closer to that end of that window when people start to compromise, like we were just talking about before, in terms of what it will take to get them off the payroll. I think that where we are at the moment, probably a defensive midfielder is, Richie Smallwood is kind of in that position on his own. Not a great deal of backup. I think you just need a bit of an insurance policy there. Okay. So that's it. That's all you need.
Yeah, and then aside from that, it'll just depend if people go. If a striker or 2 go, which is definitely in the realms of possibility, then probably bringing in at least 1 person to replace them. But
why haven't you sold the boy that scored all the goals for Swindon? Why hasn't he gone? What are you asking for him?
Well, we're not asking a ton. I think that I'm not sure the demand is there that he thinks there is. And he had 4 good months. In his career so far. There is something there, and he showed that at Swindon, but he was in a setup that was a perfect setup for his game. And, the rest of his managers haven't really been able to get much out of him. There's flashes of brilliance here and there, where, again, you see that he's got some talent, but it's just not worked for him at, how many clubs has he been with? Let's say he's been at 5 or 6 clubs. It's only worked for him once for 3 months on loan at Swindon. So, would you look for somebody that has that consistency?
Absolutely. But you should have. I don't know why you didn't sell him. Wasn't it Carlisle they were trying to buy him?
Yes.
Last window, January.
Yeah. I think at that point we thought, let's give him a go. Let's see if we can get out of him what Swindon got out of him.
Strike with the iron's hot. Strike with the iron's hot. Sometimes some strikers have like a golden period, and it's like. You got to strike with the iron's hot. Take the money, take the add-ons, take whatever else, do. Well, listen, who am I to teach people how to suck eggs and strikers? So,
that's where we are on him.
Okay, so who have you got next week? Who have you got Saturday?
We have Bromley at home.
Okay.
So, one of the things that we do best is underestimate teams coming to Valley Parade. So this is going to be a big test for us. Bromley, it's probably their biggest ever game as a football club, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what cup runs they've been on in the past, but coming away at City, their 3rd ever EFL game is not going to come much bigger for them than this, and they're going to be up for that. And there should be none of this, or they're a National League team and they've never played in the EFL, and that we're prone to do, because as we've talked about a lot on this podcast, top of the National League is top 10 of the EFL standard.
Listen, look at Stockport, look at Wrexham, look at the teams. Stockport are ripping up League One. It's just look at where they were 2 years ago. Some of those clubs. So 1,000,000%, you cannot underestimate any clubs coming from that conference. It's such a dangerous thing to do. So yeah, that'll be. You're obviously you sound apprehensive already.
Well, because we've been here and been there before. We've lost to Suttons and lost to Harrogates, and you name it, we managed to slip up. But I think why this is such an important game for us is because of that there's the crown mentality of, well, it's only Bromley. We're a championship club. We should be knocking these for 6. But that fear still in the team of playing at home, because there's that expectation that doesn't necessarily match with the gap in quality in the teams. The teams will be much closer than that expectation suggests that they are, and so it's a dangerous game for us.
No, 100%. Okay, well, let's hopefully do all the business next weekend, both of us. So are we going around the leagues now? I'll tell the truth. I have seen nothing in the Premier League regards any action this weekend. I missed the Liverpool games. It was the same time as Posh, for fuck's sake. So but I saw they won. I don't know how anyone played. You've probably watched more Premier League football than me this weekend. So where do we start?
So I was actually going to ask you, because you mentioned Sammie Szmodics obviously signing for Ipswich.
Yeah, great move for him. I cannot believe that deal. I cannot. I'm fucking stunned. I'm stunned. 9 million quid. I don't give a fuck if he's 27, 28. If you did your homework, he's the type of player that will play at he's 35, based on how he plays. And I cannot for the life of me believe some of the top teams in the Championship, and Ipswich is a massive club, don't get me wrong, but there are some big clubs in the Champ. I cannot believe nobody went in and sniffed at 12, 13, 14 million. I said it the other day, when you pay over 3 years or 4 years, and you add the players' wages in, you're probably talking about, I don't know, 5 million a year, 4-year deal or whatever, for a player that basically will guarantee you top 6 in the Champ, which gives you a 1 in 4 chance of playoffs getting to the Premier League, or a 1 in 2 if you're in the top 2 of going up automatically. I cannot fucking believe it. And for a player to go for that kind of money, I don't know what's going on with the market this summer. Because I've seen players who were in half of that player go for 15, 16, 17 million from the Champ. So I don't know what's going on. The worst part is, people say, well, it might be a flash in the pan. The motherfucker was already the leading goal scorer in Cup and League games this season, inside of 1.5 sub appearances or whatever. Phil, I can't believe it. Then I couldn't believe, fair play to Ipswich, that it wasn't even up front. It was all over time, because we've obviously got to wait, you know what I mean, for like segments. So to be fair, when I got through the text through with the amounts, my wife was like doing my son's new apartment in Auburn, and I saw these amounts come through from Baz, and I was like, oh, somebody's made a fucking hell of a bid for one of our players. And I thought it was the payment, and I rang Barry and I said, fuck you now, like 4s up front or whatever else. And Barry was like, no, that's not. So I'm not talking out of school and whatever else, but I mean,
it was your deficit reduction that you thought that is not.
We were in serious surplus profit here, but no. So to be fair, hell of a deal for Ipswich, a hell of a deal for the boy, because he's from the neck of the woods in Colchester, obviously Ipswich down the road. I'm proud as anything. Because as I said the other day, you got Ronnie in the Premier League, you got Jack Taylor in the Premier League, you got Ivan in the Premier League, you got Sammy in the Premier League. All those players were with us around COVID. Now quite a few of them I paid 7 figures for, but they were all with us around COVID. So, and Harrison could be there next year. So
it just made me think of the sliding doors kind of moment of, when you think back to, Sammy was out of the team. I think it was towards the end of Grant McCann's reign. And then
it was Darren's reign. He was out of the team
first, and then Grant.
Correct. So, and he desperately wanted to go on loan to Oxford,
right?
And I refused. Yeah,
and you think about that kind of moment and the decisions around that moment. But it also makes me think, like, what makes a player that he's considering, not that he's from a talent perspective, that you can be, out of the team and on your way to Oxford without no disrespect to Oxford.
Right.
And a couple of years later, you're playing in the Premier League.
Right. So I'm going to give him props here. So he wanted to drop down from the Champ to League One on loan to go to Oxford. And that shows you the genuineness of the player and his character, that he wasn't worried about dropping down. He just wanted to play football.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about the lad. And that's where he backs himself. Now, my thought process at the time was, there was no fucking way I'm letting a player I paid £1 million for drop down to League One, where if Carl Robinson has a few dodgy results at the time, Stanley ends up on the bench, he comes back to us in the summer and he's got no fucking value.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give then McCann some props that he got him back in the team towards the end of the season. He looked like himself. For whatever reason, because we had a horrible start, he hadn't looked like himself early on in the season. And that's where the interest, I think he tore Blackburn apart in one of those challenges. We beat Blackburn, I think, 1-0 at home. And I think that's where he was well on their radar, whereby come the summer, they started coming in and we knew that Blackburn were the club. And to be fair to the player, again, even though he wanted to leave, he started that season for us. He actually got a round of applause when I'd done the deal. He wasn't one of them who refused to play or didn't get hurt or whatever else. Just like for Blackburn, which I couldn't believe, he actually came off the fucking bench and he played.
Right,
and you're about to sell a player for like 9-10 million. Like, what the fuck? So, no, I'm going to give him props. Like, he's a proper football character. It's why he will have an EFL Hall of Fame career. It's why he will make it work in the Premier League. Because his will to win, his resilience, his dedication, he's going to be a terrific signing for Ipswich. I mean, fucking Ipswich are, fair play to them. They're really having a go. I mean, they're like, I have to say, like, very, very impressive, what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And apparently I read the match report. They were very good for a long period of time against Liverpool. So, no, really, really good. And, wish everyone in Ipswich really well. I hope Sammy, kills it there. And, maybe he'll win the Golden Boot in the Premier League and he'll go for 50 million next summer. Who knows?
How long does your are you done at this point, or do you still get sell-ons as he goes?
No. So if he went for 50, I presume Blackburn have got a sell.
Yeah, they get sell-on.
Blackburn will get a chunk.
Yeah.
We'll then get, I think, 15% we get of that. And then I think we pay Bristol 20%. Mm-hmm. So it goes on. And then Bristol will have to pay Colchester whatever their chunk is, and it stops there because I think he came through Colchester's academy. So everyone wins, So, even Bristol City, I think a couple $100,000 out of the deal won. And then I presume Colchester probably got 20-30 grand out of that. Right. So it's the trickle on effect, when deals are done, which is what I love about football. I think Robbie at Colchester, because we were originally in for him before he chose Bristol City over us. And I think Robbie's biggest regret is not doing a deal with us. Mm-hmm. Because, he would have then been first up after. He would have made, us selling it to Blackburn. He probably would have made, I don't know, 600 grand out of the deal, as opposed to making, we make 150 grand, whatever, in the knock-on. So, I think that's his biggest gutter, that he wasn't like us. And that's what we always say to clubs when we're buying. You can sell a player to the champ. If it doesn't work, they pile back down, you lose out. But if we do our thing, you're going to prosper and profit. So it's better to choose us maybe over a club that's buying him as a squad player, because he's going to go into our 11. So you want to kind of do it with us. So it's funny, it is what it is.
And speaking of players who, you have an active interest in and around swirling transfer speculation, your man, Ivan Toney, it seems like that's coming to a head.
I don't know what's going on there. So I'm everyone's always wetting their knickers over, oh my God, he's off to Saudi, he's here, he's there, he's whatever. I don't know. I would be very surprised if there isn't a late arrival from a Premier League club.
Yeah.
I call it wrong on Talk Sport. I spoke about Spurs and I spoke about Chelsea. If Chelsea had any common sense, that would be the signing. But they're, whoever they end up signing will be another foreign import that, it might take a year to get up to speed. Whereas you're getting England's number 9, a number 9 who basically goes straight into your team on Saturday. So I don't quite get the thought process. You're not buying profit, you're buying goals with Ivan. So if you're a team that has all the other pieces for profit and you want goals, that's Champions League goals, that's challenging the top end goals, I don't know. If I was a betting man, I think there's going to be a surprise. You know, I'm starting to think of clubs like Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Are Villa going to sell? They've got a young striker they were looking to sell. You know, Watkins can play wide of a three. You know, him down the middle as number 9. You know, and I'm just speculating here. I have no inside knowledge, but looking at the market and who's got money in cap space, if Man United had any sense, even if it was an obligation to buy where they couldn't get it in financial fair, but this year, I don't care. We have to wait a year, 2 years, whatever else. We don't need the money today. United could go in and do what David Raya to Arsenal was. We're going to buy him for this, but it's a loan and it'll become an obligation next summer.
Yeah.
And you can't back out of that deal. And that's a way to get around your financial fair play. United, you know, still need firepower. And, you know, he is guaranteed. And also the characters. I was reading stuff the other day about people saying about his character and whatever else. I find that disgusting because, you know, we've had him in our dressing room. I know he was like in Brentford's dressing room. Anyone that you look at the England camp, ask Declan Rice what Ivan Toney's like, you know. So I don't want to hear that bullshit that's peddled by some of the media. And it's not for me to defend him. Brentford can do that. But to question his character, you know, or talk about him, his family, or financial, whatever else, like with all due respect, if you were, you know, in the prime of your career, coming to your best years, you'd want to get paid. And if that means you have a character issue, well, I would turn around and go fuck yourself. Because every footballer at a stage in their career will want to get paid. We have it in the NFL in America where you get wide receivers, the star players, the still version of a striker, who when they get to 26, 27, 28, the NFL is different from football. They peak at 26, 27 and they're finished by 30 because of the injuries in the NFL, whereas strikers of Ivan's ilk are like 28 to 32 is their prime. So an NFL player will always get wedged in 25 to 28. That's when they're going to make their most money.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they are divas, by the way. You talk about like characters, whatever else, you know, the NFL wide receivers are divas, but that's when they get paid. So I'm sick of reading about this or hearing some of those things about this guy is like a proper dressing room warrior. So, you know, whoever gets him, should he go, are going to get a terrific striker. You know, and Brentford got a great win yesterday, so they're not going to be, you know, they're going to have to, they'll move on. They'll do what they do. I spoke about that already. It is what it is. So let's see. I see it on Twitter. I don't get excited. I'm not ringing Barry. I'm not whatever else. I saw he wasn't in the team yesterday. I was busy. I was like, you know, what will be, will be. I can't control anything on any player that goes on, you know, and gets sold and whatever. I found out the other day, and I didn't know this. We sold, I think it was Leicester, a 10-year-old winger years ago. And like he's already made 8 appearances for them. Another 2 appearances, we get another 50 grand. It wasn't even in our budget this year. And I think we have like, at the time, it was like they signed, it was before we were Cat 2. So I think we either have 7 or 10% sell on. The way wingers go, if that player breaks through it like Leicester, you know, that could be 30, 40, 50 million pounds in the future. And suddenly you're getting 7 points of that. Well, that, you know, there's a couple of million that you never even thought about. We sold a goalie to Aston Villa when he was 11. You know, I almost say it was like child trafficking. You're selling 11 and 12-year-olds. And he's already been on the first team bench for Villa. And again, if he plays for them or gets in their team, we have like different things in the deal. The winger at the moment that we're about to sell to a Premier League team, you know, I was going over the deal today. And whilst we get a little lump up front, we get like 300 grand every 10 starts in the Premier League, you know, all the way up to I think 100 starts or whatever. We get, you know, if a player comes up, it could be millions.
Yeah.
So you know, at the end of the day, that's how the whole system works. And the window's going to be really interesting.
Do you budget for any of these add-ons? And
no, just like you didn't with Ollie McBurney, probably. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, you guys made what, 2 million, 2.5 million from Ollie, you know, going. So you can't budget for them because, you know, over the last 6-7 years, we've probably sold 8, 9, 10 of those kind of academy players. You know, statistically, they don't always come off. You know, maybe 1 in 10 come off. Who knows? You know, like Carlisle sold Braithwaite to Everton. Did they think he'd be worth 70, 80 million quid? Mm-hmm. You know, probably not when they were selling them as a 15, 16, 17-year-old. But that's why Premier League teams are shopping in youth teams and spending 500 grand or £1 million or, you know, whatever, like Benji Arthur last year that we sold to Brentford. So that's why they do it, because they're buying, you know, talent really quickly and trying to beat the competition. So, you know, that's the academy system. That's what we do here. Any of those things are a bonus. And I always say if they come in, we'll allocate a little bit to facilities in the academy, and then we'll, you know, use it if we have to for the first team if it's a bonus. So, you know, we have cap things. So this 14-year-old we sell, if that opens up a few hundred grand in cap space for our first team to bring in a couple more players or do whatever, I'm happy. It's not in our cash flow. So it's a great bonus. Our we started, our cash flow hole was 5.5 going into the season. Because people think, oh, Peterborough don't pay a lot of wages, but we actively, the way we have a business, we spend money on fees. We've done new contracts, which we don't usually do because players are gone by the time the second cycle of bigger contracts come in. And and I think with all the trading we've done this summer, we've spent near enough £2 million in fees over time. But I think our hole is now under £1 million after the recent Szmodics thing, which is very manageable for a club in League One. That basically means we could have a cup run, we could have a playoff run, we could win the EFL trophy again. And there's no cash call needed at the club from me until I think it is the end of March next year. That's the first time that's happened in 18 years.
Yeah.
So, our aim was this summer, put everything together. Usually we go into the summer, we need to find £1 million in July, we need to find £1 million in August, we need to find 500 grand in September, 500 October. Our plan was to put it all together, do the deals, take all the pressure away financially where bills were paid until, our budget goes from July the 1st to June the 30th.
Yeah, you're break even on the cash flow all the way.
Pretty much get within £1 million is the perfect margin of error where a cup run of this or that, if I have to stick in, whatever, you're there. And we've pretty much, with players like Hector, Kwame, Ricky, we've had bids for and turned down. We're in a really, really good position.
Yeah.
And so anything else like Ivan, it'll be just reduce debt. A little bit of facility, buy the odd gem here or there, reduce debt. Mm-hmm. And, touch wood, since all that crap hit last year and ridiculous articles about us in administration and all that stuff, I'm really proud that since that day, we finished 4th in the league, we won a cup. And we've basically got our whole cash flow year paid for a year in advance. So I am proud and we've got a near enough 600 grand mega store under construction. So and I spent I think 400 grand on the pitches this summer, the training ground and so I'm proud as punch about that, by the way, as you can imagine.
So you're telling me that unlike what is spread on Twitter, that you're not actually siphoning all the profits from all the trade transfers into your own pocket?
Yeah, I did read that the other day, and I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen some of the commissions we paid on player sales, and everyone earning this, and whatever else. And I'm kind of like, Jesus, the amount of work I actually done a lot more work this summer than I've normally done when it comes to player deals and sales, and speaking to Prince Abdullah, doing the deals at Southampton thing. And I'm like, Jesus, I'm really getting the wrong end of the stick here. I'm doing a lot of that, work, and I'm not
as an agent here.
I'm not even getting 50 grand out of this for a holiday. Do you know what I mean? I should register myself as an agent. No, Peterborough still owes me many millions over my 18 years. Like I said, the day that is gone is the day that we're now a parity where Peterborough doesn't owe me any money, and if suddenly then Peterborough pay me 100 grand, well then it's the other side where, hey, I'm actually in the green, kind of, or in the black or whatever they call it. But Peterborough still owe me unsecured. They owe me a few million still from all the money I've put in over the years, and it's unsecured, which is the important word, which means there's never any blowback or me demanding the money back from Peterborough. So, no, I'm, like I said to you, we've, with our new CEO and the best in class, the people we have, the commercial department, the deals we've done, I'm really optimistic about it. Look, the one thing I said to everyone when we were having our meetings going into the summer is we can't go into every summer with a £5.5 million hole. It used to be 2.5, 3, and we have to, because of the cost of everything going up. And I was arguing this yesterday and backwards and forwards between someone from fan groups and stuff, that because of, we haven't charged the ticket the same price with the cost of security and the cost of running and expenses and electricity and all those things, the training ground, the academy, we put in over $1 million a year for Cat 2 Academy. We used to put 150 grand in for Cat 3. All those things are our overheads and our cash holes. I think we're at the stage where last season and this season, I think we're one of the only clubs in League One with all the transfer business we've done and whatever else, where we have brought in between 17 to 20 million each year. Usually that's 9 or 10, which again is good for valuation of the club. As you look at 2 times or 3 times the multiple and whatever else, we're actually, the money we're bringing in is almost championship like, but that's based on us being good at what we do with player trading and all of that business. But at the same time, as opposed to the old days where we'd be spending 7 or 8 a year, we're spending 16, 17, 18. So it all goes hand in hand and whatever else. But I knew this summer, I said to the manager and the team, the recruitment team, we're going to spend more this summer on transfer fees, buying players, than we probably will the next 2 years. We spent 2 million this summer. We're not going to spend 2 million next summer. well, I'm going to spend 2 million the summer after. We'll always buy players, but we have to contain it and bring it back. And the reason we were able to do the 2 this summer was because some of the previous players we bought over 4 years, it was the final summer of paying for them. So the allocation came down in player outgoings, and we did these ones over time and whatever. So, I just said to the team, 5.5 million is ridiculous. No League One club our size, forget about a rich benefactor or whatever else, needs to be scraping around to sell 5 million quid worth of players every year, or 4 million quid, even though we can do it. No club should be doing that. So we need to, we're addressing things. We're increasing our turnover. We're addressing things. We've got some nice incentives and players we sold where we think we'll get the 5.5 down to about 3.5 next summer. And then the following summer we'll be back down under 3. So that was always part of my kind of like 3-4 year when we had all that crap last year. Get the cash flow call down, start reducing the debts that are with interest payments that causing that cash call to go up every year. So there's a lot of good things happening in that respect.
From a financial planning perspective, player trading can be lumpy.
It's very difficult, Phil. It's very, I go into the summer 5.5 holes. So I sit down and I go, right, what 3 players or 2 players are we going to sell to make up the whole? So I'll start and I'll go, right, when I do a cash flow for the year ahead, I'll work with this finance team and say, I envisage these players are leaving, and I envisage the replacements are going to cost this in wages. So you put in that amount, and it's right down to the cash. My CFO will come back to me and go, those 8 players that you've got down to leave, if they don't leave by July the 1st, we by law have to pay them the whole month of July. So what amount do you want me? And I'll go, we'll go 50-50.
Yeah.
Let's assume half leave and half are still here. So let's say 7 leave. We're already up on the cash flow because there's 3 players he's budgeted that we're paying that are no longer with us. It's little things like that. It's you can't put in a cash flow. Sammie Szmodics might get sold.
Right.
We might make it 800 grand or 700 grand or whatever else, So I'll sit down and go, right, it's a 5.5 million hole. So really, if I have to put 1.5 million in or whatever else, I'll do that. So really it's 4.5. So I have to bring in 4.5 in sales, but then don't forget, I also have to buy players. So really, I have to bring in maybe 5.5, and don't forget then, if it's a player with a sell on like Ronnie, you're not quite bringing in the full fee. So if you can sell an academy player like Harrison, so I'm like, okay, I'd rather sell Harrison than Hector. I'd rather sell Ricky instead of Kwame, because those academy-based players, there was no sell-on, bar some incentives to Baz and the recruitment team and, manager, all that. So you're pretty much getting the lion's share. Then you have the other issue of, if a club basically gives you the fee and it's over 3 years, okay, so I'm getting, say, half of the fee now, and let's just try out a figure. Say I'm getting a £3 million fee, but I'm only getting 1.5 now. There's then 1.5 I need to bring into this year's budget. So I'm going to have to pay a factoring fee, which is probably going to cost about 250 grand to bring that money forward. So now I'm not getting 3, I'm actually getting 2.7 net for the player. Do you get what I mean? So there's all those things to like plan into account. But the bottom line is that we can't go into every summer, particularly if we're in League One, planning to sell 4 or 5 million pounds worth of players. It's just not practical. We can do it, but you're just basically having to rebuild a new team every year, and it's not right. So ideally, what you want to be doing is you want to sell one Ivan Toney every summer for 6 million, where you're making about 4 million, 4.5 net, and that pretty much wipes out your whole. The one thing we haven't done the last, say, 2 or 3 years is we haven't signed that prolific goal scorer that we've sold, like an Ivan. We've sold a left back, we've sold a centre half, we've had bids for wingers, we sold Ephraim Mason Clark, but we haven't had a number 9 where you go, we're going to get 5-6 million for that number 9. And that 5-6 million is pretty much going to wipe the whole hole out and leave us with some money to spend on replacing that number 9 and maybe a couple of other pieces. So we need to get back to that. But in answer to everything, we're in a really good spot. And long may that continue.
When you look, you say 5.5 million not sustainable in the long run, and you had, you had player sales which helped you bring down that deficit this year, and the sell-ons and things like that. How much do you think of? Because you talked about Ollie McBurney earlier. So Ollie McBurney was, once in a blue moon. We got 2.8 million. And, that's never happened again. Whereas for you, you have kind of a track record of being able to, of having assets year on year. Do you then at some point say, okay, I'm confident that even though I don't know which players it's going to be, I'm going to be bringing players that I can sell further down the line. So we are going to raise that money. I just don't know where it's going to come from a player perspective.
I'm always confident because we have a style of play we have a way of playing. It attracts eyes on us. Attacking players attract lots of money. We got the bonus last year that we had the best left back in League One, who was Player of the Year, and a ridiculous statistic. So we were able to monetize that. We had a young centre half that we didn't pay for, so we had to give a large sell on. So I'll give you an example. I'm confident already looking at Oscar from Sweden, who we paid a couple $100,000 for, that if somebody wanted to buy him with the year I think he's having, I'd probably want at least £3 million for him next summer. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference in a good year in our league with his kind of attributes as centre half. If Manny Fernandez played 40 times for us and did what I think he could do, you would have massive clubs at the top of the champ that would pay millions for him. We have no sell on with Manny Fernandez. We signed him in through our academy 21s. So it's all gravy. So I turn around and say to you, potentially I could sell my 2 centre halves and wipe out next year's hull without selling the number 9. Or equally, I could still sign a number 9 if Ricky goes. He's going to rival Malik, go on a team, score 30 goals, and that number 9 I'm going to sell next summer for $6 million. And I'm also going to have $4 million in add-ons. So now there's more gravy down the line. So in answer to your question, I'm always very confident because of who we are as a club, how we recruit, what we do, that I can sell players to pay our bills. So it always makes me laugh when you get people trying to buy the club and they'll offer me, I'll say, oh, the club's probably worth 20, 25 million. And I go, no, my squad is worth 35 to 40. And they'll laugh and go, how do you get to that figure? I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, somebody locally wanted to buy the club and they wanted valuations of the players. And I put a valuation out there and they came back, their representative was like, the valuations are ridiculous. You're never going to get £2 million for Harrison Burrows. That was my valuation of Harrison. Well, you're right. We got 50% more, plus we got another 3 on top. You're never going to sell Ronnie Edwards for like that. You're never going to sell like the figures we had in there. I had Ephraim Mason Clark in that valuation of 2 million.
Right.
So we got double
2 million.
So I could almost email that person back and go, really, you didn't believe my valuations at the time? Well, there's my valuations. So, and we carry about, I don't know, I think it's under 8 million in secured debt. So with a squad worth 35 million plus, and you got less debt than 8 million or whatever else, that's a very, very healthy football club. And not only that, when you buy a Peterborough United, you're going in and putting the plug in and off you go. You're not having to do anything. Because if you walked in now as a buyer, and I'm not trying to sell our club, by the way, but if you walked in right now and sat in the seat of Peterborough, you've got nothing left to do. You're good to go. You're good to go. You've got style, you got a manager, you got, coaching staff experience, you got a thriving academy, you got a thriving 21s, you got a first team that are the highest goal scorers in the league last year and probably will be again this year, and will be vying for what, because that's always the ambition. You don't need to go to I need a new manager, I need to spend 3 million on players. No, you're plugged in. So actually you're buying into something, as opposed to you could go somewhere else and get a club for 5 million less, and you got to fire the whole fucking management squad. You got to change the whole recruitment, and suddenly you got to spend money you didn't think you needed to spend. So that's always been my argument. You know what I mean about like Posh, that it's plugged in. It's got everything. Do you know what I mean? It's that, no matter what people say and how bad it is, and debts and this and that, and a few of our friends out there who do finance stuff and talk about the loans we have accumulating, or this on company's house or that on company's house. Well, yeah, but we're bringing in more money than anyone in the football league. And over 18 years, I think I worked it out. My average, I think, is 4.8 million per year in transfer income. So when people go, well, how do we know you can do it again next year? I would say, don't batting averages mean anything.
Yep.
So there you go.
It's that system.
Correct. So, and I've found a couple of new systems I think will make it even more lucrative. So yeah, correct. And I've put it out there. I'm actively looking to hire a young scout. I put it on Twitter last night. The pay is shit, but if you work for DMAC, within a year, you'll be able to use that in your CV to get a job in a top club, because that's what I've done for a few scouts before. So if you fancy working part-time, a day or two a week, which will involve games, doing reports, analysis, data, and maybe the odd travel to Europe on a Friday night to a game. Like I said, the pay ain't great, but the experience and before everyone comes running at me, the socialists and whatever else, trust me, it's beneficial if you want to invest in your own future, and that's what you want to do in football. My gig's the best gig in town. So my young scout, Ben, who works for me, you'll report to him and he will set you off on what you've got to do. So if you want to, let me pull up his email address, just in case people want to know where to email to do this. His email address is...
and I will shout out to Ben as well, as just
Ben's great.
Person to work for.
Ben's lovely, do you know what I mean? So he's like family to me. So the email address is benpauldavies4@gmail.com. So that's BenPaulDavey4, the number 4, @gmail.com. Send your CV in. Again, we don't need high maintenance people. I don't need the generation who are lazy, who are moaning about whatever else. You get told what it is, what you got to do, and you got to be a hard worker and a grafter. And if it's about money, don't bother emailing. If it's about career progression, email. And make sure that you've got a clean passport.
Well, there's lots of football clubs that would value their scout having knowledge of the DMAC recruitment system. So.
Correctamundo. So, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I threaten the scouts within an inch of their life that if they reveal any of my trade secrets, they'll never be found again. Now, a bit of a disclaimer on the podcast, because some people take things too literally. When we talk on here, it's all banter and fun. We talk about me putting people in the boot of the car, or someone's getting it, or whatever else. It's all meant in good jest. Don't take things literally. I'm not a violent person, allegedly. And
the disclaimer at the front of every show.
We need that, because people take things quite literally. And we like to have a bit of fun, and this is what we do. This is why we get 10, 11, 12,000 people every week tuning into the episodes. So if you want to come and do a bit of scouting for me, let us know, and email Ben and the email address I've just given. And that's it. I think we've done an hour, so I think we've done pretty well.
Yeah, and we've, I'm not worried about not getting into the divisions yet, because, things are still sorting themselves out. We've got plenty of time during the season to chat about that kind of stuff. If anyone has any problems with emailing Ben, you can always email the podcast as well, and we'll forward that on to Ben too, which is contact@halvesfootball.com.
Perfect. Excelente. Looking forward to next week's one, and hope everyone enjoys this episode. We could call this episode, I don't know, learning the cash flows of a football club.
If Henry can make that into a catchier 5 words or something.
Exactly right. So anyway, all is good. And everyone have a great week. Good luck to everyone at the weekends with their clubs. Safe travels.
Safe travels. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.